but the extent to which you expect to achieve your aims and goals can be highlighted here. Then this part is also very important. Introduction is not just about laying or describing the context, then talking about the subject matter, the subjects being investigated, talking about your objectives, describing the problem to the audience. It should be considered as a preview of the whole report. You would have heard of these words that first we preview something, then we view, and finally we review. So this is basically the first step of previewing the basic content. Once we have the report, then we can view it. And once it has been viewed, and if there is something missing and which can be edited afterwards, then we move towards the process of reviewing. So basically, in case of the introduction, it should be considered as a preview of what's coming ahead, which will be viewed and reviewed afterwards. This is basically the first step, and it should be met when it comes to the process of writing the introduction of a report. A preview of what's coming ahead. Another thing to be mentioned here is the limitations. We talked about it earlier as well. Now you can simply provide a bit of detail within this introductory session, that these are some of the limitations, these are some of the boundaries under which we are supposed to carry out that study, and that is the manner in which we have conducted this survey. So talk about your restraints, your restrictions, your boundary and the domain which has been provided to you, under which you have carried out the study. Once all these bullets are achieved, now look at the use of bullets over here. Good point that I remember, and I would like to mention it here as well, that it becomes easier for you to remember and for me to explain as well. Have you noticed how helpful these bullets are? So if you make them part of your report, it will also help you to make your audience understand the target points that you want them to understand. That right now I want you to understand. So I've written them in bullets. This is what the bullets do within the report as well. These are the points to remember when it comes to the process of writing an introduction of a report. Now look at this very first example, a journal example. And then if you just read the first few lines, then I'll simply ask you, what is the basic thing that you find within the first example? Today, many organizations and employees are experiencing the effects of stress on the work performance. So within the red, you have that problem which has to be investigated, or the subject matter which will be focused within this study, as highlighted by the example. The second thing to note is that it is laying a context. Today means nowadays. A problem which is existing nowadays is that many organizations are facing this problem of stress. So, setting up a context of many organizations, workplaces where people are working, what do they face? A problem. The effects of stress can be neither positive or negative. If we move ahead, we're going to find explanation and details for the readers, which is expected to be provided within this introductory session. And that's why you have it here. So the element of context, have you noticed? It's there. Then the description of problem is also there. Now if we move ahead, you're going to find some other elements as well. A picture that I attached for you, that is how it appears, and look at the manner that within this report it's clearly written that it's not just an introduction, but it's providing a background as well. So this is the value of an introduction. It should provide a background, because your readers don't know what you are dealing with, what you have talked about within the report. So if you are not providing them with a context, they won't know what are we dealing with, what are we reading, what is it about. So this is the significance of a background and a context, and it has to be there when we talk about the introduction. Now look at this example. It will be more helpful for you, and that's why I've had it here, so that you may know how to structure your introduction. If you look at the first thing, we have the use of this decimal system that I talked about within the TOCs. We have the first degree of heading, and under this first degree of heading we have the second degree of heading. We have once again another point under the same next degree of heading, and then we have another point in the same next degree of heading. However, if there are some other subsections which are considered to be provided within the background, then certainly the report writer can simply go for writing 1.2.1, and this will become the third degree of heading, and so on and so forth. They can move in the same format if they want. One thing set aside after being cleared, now we can come towards the focus of the structure of the introduction. So as we talked about the structure of an introduction, what does it do? These are the things. Now look at the very first beginning of this introduction. The purpose of this report is to investigate the reasons behind the rise in computer gaming addiction among teenagers. So now look, setting a domain, setting up a purpose. Why is this thing being carried out? Why is it being conducted? If anyone asks you, so you need to provide very clearly at the very first place why you are doing this thing. So this is the basic purpose of doing and carrying out this study. Right from this purpose, then you provide the background. Once again, the background is here. Once you have laid the foundation of your purpose, you can do it in another way as well, starting from the background, and based on that background you talk about the purpose. Within that background, you have noticed a recent study on game technology, now look at this reference, shows that nearly 75% of teenagers, which means we are providing some facts and figures, going to the details, making it more credible, in Singapore play computer games regularly, and the majority of them show signs of addiction. Now over here I want you to focus on this thing. A surname with the year. Now this is called citation, in-text citation, and the details of which are basically provided at the very end of the report under the heading of bibliography or the works cited. Now why authors are being used within the report? Their basic purpose is to make your work more authentic, genuine and reliable, and that is something that you do by citing other credible authors who have worked within that same domain. Now this can also be looked upon by that point that I mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, that if there are certain limitations that can be fulfilled by the future researchers, and once these future researchers start working on that same domain under the same body of knowledge, they'll start from the point where the work has been left. And how do they do it? By acknowledging the work of others, by giving their reference, by citing them within their own work. So that is how you connect the whole body of knowledge, by the use of in-text citation. If you will do a totally new work, you will have to defend it in tougher circumstances. But if you provide references of other bodies of knowledge, that means that you are trying to associate yourself with the other works, and that's how you become part of the same body. This is the significance of these in-text citations, and that is how these are important to make your work more interesting, more authentic and worth reading. Once the background has been explained, then you can move towards providing the method. Let's suppose background has been established, the context has been explained, and then you have defined your purpose as well. Next question would arise, what is basically the method that you have chosen to carry out that study? So then comes the method of investigation. And what was the method? Questionnaires were issued to 100 teenagers from 25 educational institutions on June 25th, 2010. So basically, what was done? Questionnaires were used on whom? 100 teenagers, population of 25 educational institutes. So basically, after using a sampling technique, this is the target, the focus group, which has been analyzed by the use of questionnaires, and you have explained the time in which this thing has been done as well. So an explanation of the method that which has been used of the investigation has been explained as well. Once you have explained the method, now you will come towards the scope. That besides respondents' profile, this report looks into 4 possible reasons for the rise in gaming addiction among teenagers. Now this scope, are you following this? How this scope is explaining the extent to which your report will cover different problems, and they will try to analyze all these problems and will move towards the provision of their relevant solutions with some suggestions and recommendations. So that is how you basically structure an introduction, and hopefully this example was helpful for you and would be helpful in future as well to structure your own introduction. Just keep these headings within your mind while drafting and preparing your introduction, and it will help you to be a very successful writer of a report. Some other good example includes these two, very interesting because this coloring scheme has divided different sections, and you can just clearly have an idea of how to divide different sections into group. Starting from this report looks into, for example, purpose of this report. This is basically the purpose. Looks into the factors influencing students' behavior in lecture theatre. So this is the subject matter, students' behavior and behavior of the students. So who is our subject? Students are the subject. What is the subject matter? The behavior in lecture theatres. And then we move towards suggestions. What would be the basic outcome? The suggestion of some ways to promote positive learning. So look at the manner in which this very small introduction has very concisely explained all the things which are expected to be achieved within this report. Furthermore, this report studies, what does it do? The causes of unhealthy eating among teenagers. Subject matter, and then moving towards the outcome. What would be the outcome? The expected outcome would be recommendation of some ways to promote unhealthy eating habits. Just look at the manner in which all these sections are coming one after the other. All the goals are being set. Background is being set. The explanation of subject and subject matter is coming. An indication of the focus group which would be analyzed is there. And finally, an indication of what will be achieved as a result of this analysis is there. So that is how you structure your introduction. And a good introduction expects all these points to be there. A good reader or a critical reader would also look into the detail whether all these points are available or not.
Let's have a quick overview of what you have studied today. In today's lecture, you have learned the different sections of a report in detail. In terms of the organization of your report, you are supposed to prepare different sections and subsections of a report. There are 9 different sections of your report. Number 1, title page. Number 2, executive summary. Number 3, table of contents. Number 4, introduction. Number 5, discussion. Number 6, conclusion. Number 7, recommendations. Number 8, bibliography. Number 9, appendices. First First comes the title page of your report that carries the title. It has all the required information, the submission date of your report. The addressee's names comes first, then the addressee's name. Next is the executive summary. It covers aims and objectives of your report, the methodology you employed, main findings after analyzing your data, conclusions and recommendations. Next is the table of content, that is well-formatted list of all the sections and subsections of the report. The first major section is the introduction. It provides a broader picture of the whole report, its scope, its background, probing questions and limitations of your report. Two methods can be used for organizing your body. In deductive report, number 1 is title and executive summary. Number 2, introduction. Number 3, conclusion and recommendation. Number 4 is discussion. And the fifth one is references. Whereas in the inductive report, number 1 is title and executive summary. Number 2, introduction. Conclusion and recommendation comes at number 4. Number 3, discussion, and the fifth one is references.
Hopefully you are clear, and I can say that now we can move towards the conclusion of our lecture, where we talked about the structure of a report starting from the title page itself. I gave you the example. We looked into the detail of the executive summary, its purpose and its structure, its division into different sections. We talked in detail, in good detail, about the TOCs, and I don't think it would be an issue for you to now understand how to prepare your own table of contents. You can just start your practice at home if you want to just write your own book. And if you have chosen some sections and the manner in which you need to have some subsections, so just do this practice of dividing your sections and subsections within different degrees of heading, and just write XYZ or any page number so that it may appear like a TOC. And then we talked in a good detail about the introduction with some pertinent examples as well. In the upcoming few lectures, we will move onwards towards the other body of report, so that you will be in a perfect position to prepare your report once you are done with this structured study of report writing. Thank you very much.